So you own scuba tanks now, and you need to know what is involved in keeping them serviced and up to date. In this video, we're going to talk about the 2 tests that are important and required to keep your scuba tanks serviced and up to date. Let's check it out. How's it going, dive buddies? It is Kyle here with another quick scuba tip, and today we're going to be talking about servicing your scuba tanks. Scuba tanks need to undergo a couple different tests every so often in order to stay up to date and current so that you can keep getting air fills and you can keep diving. Now there are 2 tests that need to be done in order to keep your tank up to date, and those are the visual inspection and the hydrostatic test. Now the visual inspection is done every year, and the visual inspection is going to cover a couple different points. The first is the exterior of the tank, and the technician is going to check the entirety of the tank. They're going to look for dents, dings, cuts, anything that's not supposed to be there. They're going to take the boot off and check the bottom corner of the tank, the rim at the bottom. They're going to look for any sort of visible warping that might be on the tank itself. Now the technician will also then, after he performs the exterior of the tank, he's going to look on the inside of the tank. They're going to remove the valve of the tank. They're going to look inside with a light. They're going to inspect the inside of the threads with a special light as well. And they're looking for anything that's not supposed to be there. They're looking for dings, the cuts, accumulation of rust, any sort of pitting in the bottom of a tank, debris that could be in the bottom of the tank. And the inspection is also going to include the valve of the tank. They're going to look at the threads, they're going to look at the O-rings, and they're going to make sure that everything is in tip-top shape. Now aluminum tanks, as opposed to steel tanks, will often undergo what is called the Eddy Current Test, or the Eddy Current Visual Test. Now what the Eddy Current Test does is it inspects the threaded neck part of the tank, and it looks for sustained load cracking, or SLC. Or these are tiny, thin, hair-like fractures that happen along that area of the tank that can't be visible to the human eye, but can with a computer and a computer program. So once the inspector is done with the visual inspection, they're going to slap a sticker on the back of the tank that has the date on it. And this is so, one, you remember next year to bring your tank back in for visual inspection around that time, and as well it will inform any other dive shop that may be handling or filling that tank that the tank has undergone the proper visual inspection. Now the second test that is done is called the Hydrostatic Test, and this test is done every 5 years from the day the tank was made. Now your dive shop most likely sends your tank off to a specialist if it requires a hydrostatic test. There aren't a whole lot of dive shops that have all the equipment necessary to perform the hydrostatic test, so they usually rely on a specialist off-site. Now the hydrostatic test, or hydro for short, is essentially checking the elasticity of the tank, making sure that it expands and contracts within the proper parameters that make it safe for diving use. Then the inspector who did the hydro is going to stamp the new date on the neck of the tank around the area where the previous date was. If you're a little more curious about what the hydrostatic test is and all the little bit more detail as to what's involved in it, I'm going to post a link in the description below where you can check out in much more detail what is actually happening to the tank and what they do to the tank as they perform the hydrostatic test. Now, if you're still not 100% sure what your tanks need, take them down to your local dive shop, and they're going to be able to help you figure out what your tank needs so that you can keep on diving. So guys, I hope with this little bit of information now you're not going to be fully caught off guard when you head on down to your local dive shop and they tell you that your tank needs a visual inspection before it can get filled, or that maybe it needs a hydrostatic inspection and a visual before it can get filled. Don't worry, they're not out to get you. They have standards that they have to follow and comply with, and are just there to make your diving experience as safe as possible. Thanks for checking out our quick scuba tips. If you like these videos, maybe consider subscribing to the Dive Wagon for more awesome quick scuba tips and scuba fun. See you next time, and happy diving.